So where's this going to?
YouTube.
Oh yeah, nice.
So wherever.
Wherever YouTube goes.
Now, I wonder, are you going to dim the lights, or do you care if the lights are
Doesn't
dim?
bother me. When you want the students to fall asleep or not fall asleep?
No, I don't want them to fall asleep.
Yeah, no, it'd be fine. Do whatever you guys need to do.
I'm hoping here just keep them enthralled and wide awake, right?
I'm going to say free beer. Will that work?
That's so funny. Somebody else just said that. That's why our whole department was down here. Free beer. Our boss said that, actually.
This is a nice auditorium. It really is nice. Yeah.
We're very proud of it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. How's it going?
Okay, how
Good.
are you?
Doing all right. Guess I'll walk on down. Yeah, boy. Thank you again for having me. You can say anything you want. Riverboat gambler. Doesn't bother me. You don't need to say much. Probably just the first part and anything else you want to lean on. But just that running the Schneider Center is probably the most important one. Is it on there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually happy.
I really like this auditorium. This is nice. I like the fact that you have light over there. You might need to have something to dim it out sooner or later. I don't know, be a movie or something, but for the most part, this is really
Now,
it's
if,
nice.
If you get an echo feedback, if you step forward to the width of the top.
Yeah. I'm not using the mic.
Well,
Oh, just you mean just in
I
general?
can hear it sometimes.
Oh, really? Just when you're talking? Yeah.
I'm really sensitive to monitor, the feedback.
Yeah.
This was acoustically designed to give you that off the ceiling. And it's just one of those things that some people, it helps them and some, well,
Yeah.
it's that half-second delay that just,
Oh, it messes me up. My daughter puts me on speakerphone on her cell phone. When I talk, then I can hear myself, and it's very irritating. Like, take it off the damn speaker.
it's still coming in. This is good. Got our physics professor
All right.
right there in the center. Quite a bit of faculty, quite a bit
Yeah.
of staff.
It's a good, it's a good turnout.
And then we're telecasting you out.
That's
to
yeah.
all of our off-campus.
That's what I hear. Yeah.
It's a fine wide angle, so if you're a wanderer,
I saw the picture, so I am a wanderer. It's hard. It's hard to stand still and give a talk. You can introduce people standing still, but giving a talk is just you got to be animated. It's really hard.
I used to make them, if I had to sit in a single spot, they had to take a box off so that I had a visual clue.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, let's do it.
Good afternoon. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. It is a true privilege today to introduce Dr. Steve Goldman. He is a faculty member of the Department of Economics and the College of Business at the University of Louisville since 1988. He became the BB&T Distinguished Professor of Free Enterprise in 2009, and he is the director of the John A. Shatner Center for Free Enterprise as of 2015. So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Dr. Steve Goldman.
Thank you.
One minor announcement, if you've got to do a sign-in sheet, they're back here. If you're Dr. Kirkman's student, she has your sign-in sheet. You have to sign in after. Same with Ms. Becker.
So thank you for having me here. This Robert W. Plaster Free Enterprise Center is a beautiful building. And you guys are fortunate to have a place like this. This is a really nice auditorium. So I am the director of the John H. Schneider Center for Free Enterprise. That's Papa John's Pizza, in case you didn't know. And so we have events, and fortunately we get to have pizza after every event. Go figure. But I've been at the University of Louisville for a long time, and it's a pretty nice place. So I'm going to talk about government and entrepreneurship, and if I get this to work. Uh-oh. Maybe I need to turn it on. I'm not using a mic. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. All right, there we go. So we think about systems of government, and we've got capitalism and socialism on the two extremes. There's no country in the world that has either one of these. But capitalism means that individuals have their own property rights. What you own is yours, and you can trade it with other people. Socialism, on the other hand, all right, I have to use this. Socialism is when the government owns most of the means of production. Property rights are very limited. And so there's a difference here. And I used this slide. I was giving a lecture in China, and actually this is the first slide I used. And in China's pretty much communist, socialist, but they're becoming more free market oriented, more free enterprise oriented, and they're allowing for more property rights. And so I'm giving this lecture, and I have a good friend of mine who's Chinese, who's also at the University of Louisville, and he's translating, so he knows what I'm saying. So he's not just saying the words, he's saying the meaning of the words. And they brought a letter up to him saying, well, you need to tone this down. We were talking about free markets too much. And then at the end of the lecture, the party secretary came up, and he said, I can't believe they put this first slide up. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to be in the gulag soon. And so then afterwards, he takes us to dinner, and he said, this is what they needed to hear. So he had to have the party line, but then he wanted the true line. This is what people need to hear about free markets. And so we're going to talk about free markets and how free markets allow entrepreneurs to flourish, which allows us as individuals to flourish. We have all of these great things in our lives because of entrepreneurs and the ability of people to exchange property rights. All right, so the difference is really between these two systems is who has the knowledge and who owns the property. So individuals own property in a capitalistic system, and central planners are the ones making decisions in a socialist system. So think about your life, and you like to make decisions for yourself, I would assume. But think about when your parents are telling you what to do, right? They're the central planners, and how that influences what you do. And you say, no, I know what's better for me than somebody else. Your parents are actually looking out for you, but just think about when somebody further removed is trying to say, oh, this is what you should be doing. It gets a little irritating, and that's what happens when you have central planners. And so the big distinction is you have freedom and dignity, responsibility, humanitarianism in a free market system. You've got the ability to do what you want. Whereas when there's central planners, you got to do what people tell you to do. And most people don't like to be told what to do. If you do, you probably aren't very happy here. So there's a guy, Ludwig von Mises, he was an Austrian economist, and he said that capitalism, he said if history could teach us anything, it would be that private property is inextricably linked to civilization. So think about the initial tribes, when we had the initial people, and nobody, I guess anthropologists and archaeologists have looked at this, but you have groups of people that were living together, and they kind of agreed not to take from each other. But then what happened when this group of people, this tribe of people, met another tribe of people? They had two choices. What do you think those choices were? Fight or flight. Or fight or trade. Or flight. So I guess they had three choices. But they either killed each other and you take the goods from the other group if you won, or you could trade with them and then continuously have goods from each other. Well, over time, the societies that decided, let's trade with each other, didn't end up killing each other, and these are the groups that grew. And this is where this idea of property rights probably came from, is that we have property rights and we respect each other's property rights. We don't kill each other. We have property in ourselves. We don't kill each other. And these societies survived. The societies that didn't believe in this say, oh, we kill things, kill everybody. Well, they killed each other. They're gone. And so this system started initially a long time ago, and it's still in existence. And if we steer away from that, then we're going to start being in a situation where people won't have property and probably put us in a much worse situation. So think about what you do and why you're going to school. You're going to school because you want to get a good job, I would assume. And you want to get an education. You want to learn things. Well, why do you want to get a good job? And how do you get a good job? Well, you got to have something that you can trade to your employer for the money they're going to give you. We all trade all the time. And what do? We trade something we value less for something we value more. So if you were in my class, we would do what we call a trading game, and I would ask you what kind of candy bars you like. And so if you like Reese's Cups and you like Snickers bars, I would give you the Reese's Cup and give you the Snickers bars, and you'd be happy because you got free candy, right? But you wouldn't be as happy as if I gave you the thing you wanted. But if I let you trade, what happens? Then you make yourself better off. This is why we trade. And when people realize that, it's like, oh, I've got these things, and he's got something I really want. Maybe I can trade with him, make myself better off. Society started to grow. People became wealthier. Because what is wealth? Wealth isn't that I have a bunch of dollar bills. Wealth is that I have a lot of things I really value. Having things you value makes you wealthier. Having lots of dollar bills doesn't make you any wealthier. It allows you to buy things that make you wealthier. But that's about it. So what drives an entrepreneur is they want to make themselves better off. Well, how can you make yourself better off? You make yourself better off by making other people in society happier, making them better off. If I come up with a new product that nobody's ever thought of and people really like it, they're going to buy it, and I'm going to make a lot of money. But why are they buying it? They're not buying it because they want to make me a lot of money. They're buying it because they want it, and it makes them better off. And I'm made better off too. So everybody wins in a society where we're allowed to trade, freely exchange goods and to trade and to make each other better off. True entrepreneurs do that. They have strong values. They want to make people better off. They don't want to take advantage of people. When I was an undergraduate, I had a couple of friends who were in the business school, and I thought, I never want to be in the business school because business people are a bunch of sleazy people. It's not true. Some business people are not good people, but that's true in the world in general. Some people are not good people. But most business people are making us better off. And we're going to talk about the bad business people here in a minute, but it matters. So we as individuals and business people are self-interested. We're not selfless. Selfless means you give up everything for everybody else and care not for yourself at all. That sounds good. Oh, this would be a great world to live in, but it doesn't work because we are all self-interested. We think about ourselves first. And you probably should think about yourself first because nobody's going to care about you more than you care about yourself. Your parents love you a ton, but you're going to care about yourself even more than them possibly. Maybe. I don't know, kids are pretty hard. But so instead of being concerned for yourself when you're self-interested, you're going to care about yourself, but to care about yourself, you got to care about others. To make myself better off, I've got to care about what other people want. That's the only way I can make myself better off. So in the selfless world, let's say that we were in this land of gentlemen. We were all selfless. And so somebody's got a dozen eggs, and I want some eggs, and they want some money. But we're selfless. And so I say, I really want some eggs. Let me give you $500 for that dozen eggs because I really care about you and I just kind of want the eggs. But I'm going to give you a lot of money. Of course, the other guy's selfless too. So no. I'll give you the eggs for a penny. Well, what's going to happen? We could never agree on what price to sell the eggs for because we're trying to think about the other person so much. But if we were self-interested, he'd say, well, at the most, or at the minimum, I'll take $2 for this dozen eggs, and maybe at the most I'd pay $4 for the dozen eggs. So we'll find some price in between where we'll both make this exchange and we're both better off because we're trading something we value less. He's trading these eggs for money, and I'm trading money for eggs. I value the money less than the eggs. And we're making this exchange, and now we're both better off. And so we're both wealthier in this sense too. So the self-interest is what drives entrepreneurs and what drives people. It's not a bad thing to be self-interested. It's actually good for you. So Deidre McCloskey talks about this in 4 books she's written on the bourgeois dignities. But we've had a 3,000% growth in income since 1800. 3,000% is huge. It's 300 times up. And it's because of commoners were able to pursue their own interests. They were able to own property and come up with ideas to say, I can make money if I do this. If I come up with this product, we can make people better off. And as a consequence, we have all these things that make our lives better. Cell phones, penicillin, streaming videos, Taco Bell, right? At least it makes my life better off, maybe not yours. But we've got all these really good things. And not everybody likes Taco Bell. But enough people like Taco Bell that it's still in business. If they made spaghetti tacos, they probably wouldn't be in business. But they've got the right combination of goods that keeps them in business. No central planner told people what to do. It's individuals were acting and experimenting and trying to figure out what can I make that makes people better off. And in that way, they also enrich themselves. And this is what happens in the marketplace. You guys will be entrepreneurial in your lifetimes. You might not start a business, but you're going to do things that are entrepreneurial And these things would be, oh, how can I make my company better off? And if you do that, you're going to make yourself better off. How can I do things that make others better off? So think about what you have that your parents did not have. So I don't know if you guys have ever seen this. You guys are so young, but this is a telephone. And my niece, when she was young, she saw this. She says, where do you push the buttons? It's like, well, you don't push the buttons. You actually have to dial. This is why we have this word dial tone. If you still have a landline, it's a dial tone because you had to dial the phone. But nobody even does that anymore, right? There should be a push tone or something. And, you guys have something now that has more computing power than the space, the lunar module that landed on the moon. This has, your iPhone has more computer power. Why did this happen? Why didn't this happen in Russia? Why? Because individuals were free here in the United States to pursue ideas and help make themselves better off by making us better off. And so we've got these really cool phones now that do almost everything you want. All right. So you look around and we all want to be happy. And entrepreneurs are looking, some entrepreneurs are just making good products better or making good products less expensive. Other entrepreneurs like Steve Jobs are coming out with totally new ideas and what I call latent demand that we don't even know we have. And we want to be better off, we want more things, but we don't know what those things are. Well, the good entrepreneurs, the real innovative ones, find those things and make our lives even better off and they create new goods. And think about all the new goods that have happened in your lifetime. And iPhone's probably the best example I can think of. So the goods we like and want stay in the marketplace. The goods we don't like, what happens to them? What happens if somebody comes up with a bad idea? Well, they go out of business. Here's an example of a bad idea. I don't know if this ever was a product, but these guys are ice skating. They got this little thing to carry your baby around in. Good idea? I'm going to make $1 million off of this. I don't think so. So these things they go to market. You'll probably see them on the Home Shopping Network or something, but they don't stay in the market very long because bad ideas get thrown out by better ideas. And when probably 10 or 15 years ago, there was a company that made what was called a zip drive. And this was right before the USB thumb drives. And these things held a lot of data. And so they were in business for about a year, but then the thumb drives came out and put them out of business. It was a good idea, but then the new innovations put them out of business. And so we see this happening all the time. Better ideas drive out bad ideas. And who makes the decision if it's a good idea or not? We do, as a consumer. It's where we spend our dollars. We get to vote with our dollars. You want to make somebody a billionaire? Buy their product. If you want to make them poor, don't buy their product. It's pretty simple. So, just kind of put them all up here. So why do sellers sell? They want to make themselves better off. Why do you work? You want to make yourself better off. How do you make yourself better off? You treat your employer well. You treat your people buying from your employer well. You treat everybody well. You're going to make yourself much better off than if you don't treat people well. So really, good entrepreneurs are really in the service industry in effect. You're serving others. It doesn't matter if you're producing a product, if you're actually in the service industry, you're still serving people. Your suppliers, your buyers, your employees, all of them are involved and you want to serve and treat all of them well. If you do that, you'll stay in existence. Good entrepreneurs have long-term vision. They don't care about making a quick profit off of somebody and taking advantage of somebody. They look at the long run. They want to keep you as a business partner if you're buying from them for a long period of time because it makes them better off. And to do that, they have to make you better off. Again, it's always caring about people. When you're buying from companies, you buy from companies that treat you the best generally, have the best product and treat you well. So, we talked about gains from trade. You trade things you value less for things you value more. But some people say capitalism is uncaring and uncooperative. but it's actually the most cooperative system there is because entrepreneurs are trying to figure out what makes you better off. They have to cooperate with society to figure that out. And so when we deal with each other over time, we got incentives to treat each other well. If you're dealing with somebody one time, then you got to worry a little bit more, right? Because I'm only going to buy from this person once. I don't know if they're going to treat me fairly or not. You're buying a used car. You're not going to buy a used car except once or twice. You're not going to buy from the same person very often. You might have to worry about, is this person an honest broker or not? And that becomes a lot more difficult. And the way that used car dealers get around this, because why would you trust a used car dealer, is they put warranties on some cars and not on other cars. And what are they telling you? If I put a warranty on this car, it's a better car. If I don't have a warranty on it, well, beware. You're getting a lower price, but you got to take the risk. And so even these used car dealers, they're not trying to take advantage, but they're trying to give you information that they know and make you trust it. And they do that by putting warranties on some cars and not on others. Experiments in socialism. I talked to some people about Anabaptist and Munster, but it's instead of talking to you guys about it, you should just go listen to Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. It's a great, horrible, gory story, but interesting. But Venezuela and the USSR tried socialism. This is Venezuela today. This is like the Walmart. It's not. They don't have Walmart in Venezuela, but this is what Walmart would look like in Venezuela. Why? Because there's no property rights. There's a socialist system. There's no incentives for people to innovate, and the consequence is people don't have food. People are starving. People are worse off. But we've got this socialist system. We care about people. No, they don't. That shows me right there they don't care about people. You might think it's caring, but this is the result of that caring. Same with the USSR. People had to wait in lines for food. In the free market, the consumer is the king. You guys make and break people. We all do. We all have a voice in what's produced. You think about products that have gone companies that have gone out of business. They're not producing as well. You think what's going to happen to United Airlines in the next couple months. There'll be a lot of people switching over and maybe flying other airlines, at least for a while, until United gets things back on track. So if you don't like a company's business practice, you choose not to buy from them. And that's going to happen to United, I think. So when government makes a decision for you, you're not even free to change jobs. So in socialist Russia, you were assigned a job. This is your job. Do it. Your generation, I just read recently, this isn't quite true, but they were saying 10 years ago that your generation would be changing jobs about 20 times in your lifetime. But just recently, I saw a report that said that your generation's not really changing jobs as often as they thought, but you're still going to change jobs sometime in your life. Just think if you had to stay in the same job forever. That'd be pretty frightening. And this is what happens when you don't have that freedom of choice. And so freedom of choice is very important. Oh, there, I got it to work. So, where are we? Well, it's not working now. So, profits are really just a signal that somebody's doing something right. We want companies to make profits because then they're producing things that we want. If you're not making a profit, you're taking resources and you're mixing them together in a way that makes them less valuable. We're losing money, we're losing resources. So profitable companies are what we want. And so profits are an important signal because they tell us consumers that these companies are providing things that are more valuable to society than companies that are making a loss. So which system is moral? Socialism helps people. Government gives out goods. Everybody's better off. I think Dolly talked about it today. You got this and this. And socialism makes everybody equal. And capitalism allows for self-interest, but allows for bigger distribution of income. But what does it mean to be moral? To be moral means you do not compel people unjustly. And we can debate what unjustly means, but you don't force people to do things. But if you have a socialist system, you have to force people to do stuff because people don't have the freedom of exchanging property. So right there, you're forcing them unjustly because you're not allowing them to have property. And so the capitalist system is the only system that allows people freedom and integrity and individualism. And so capitalism is the one that I would argue is the most moral system we could have. As we move away from a free enterprise system, and we're not totally free enterprise here in the United States, but the further we get away from that, the less moral our society becomes. Now, are businesses immoral? Businesses can't be immoral. People are immoral. Individuals can be immoral. Individuals in a business as a group can be immoral. And we see that with Enron and other companies like that. But everybody who worked at Enron wasn't an immoral individual. I'm sure the janitor working there had no idea what was going on and wasn't doing anything evil. So we got people who look at short-term gains over long-run interest. Those people might act immorally. But when we have what I call repeated games, when you have to interact with people over and over again, do you treat them badly? Of course not, because you want them to treat you well too. And so because of these repeated games, we have more incentive to act morally. You probably have friends that lie or are not real moral all the time, or maybe not your friends, but you know people like that. And you don't want to be around them as much as people that you can trust. And so it's the same thing with business. Now, we need a legal system. We need a government. People say, oh, a lot of free market libertarians would not want government. It's like, no, we need somebody to enforce contracts. We need some sort of governmental system to protect our properties. And the problem we have in any system is there's bad people. Not everybody's bad, but there's some bad people. And that's going to be true in a socialist system, in a capitalist system. And when bad people do something bad in a capitalist system, a lot of people say, oh, it's capitalism's fault. They do bad things in a socialist system, they say, oh, it's bad people. No, it's just bad people all the time. It's not a system's good or bad, although free market system's much better. But when you have bad people, it doesn't matter what system they're in. They're going to figure out a way to be bad. Think about Stalin or Hitler. They were bad people, and they were not in a capitalist system. Uh-oh. Oh, no. So, cronyism. If you cannot produce to make a profit, how could you work the system to make a profit? If I'm making a product that not enough people want to buy, is there a way I can work the system to make money? So let's think about this. Let's say I'm a waste management company, and I work here in Poplar Bluffs, and there's another waste management company, and we're private enterprise, so it's not government run. And they're from out of town though, and I live in town, but everybody likes their service better because they actually show up on time and do a good job, and so I'm not making any money. Well, I'm not making money because people don't like what I'm making. But what can I do? Well, one thing I could do is, what if I had some mafia friends and I said, hey, why don't you go and make these guys an offer they can't refuse, something like this. And so I say, why don't you go to this guy and say, we want 10% of your profits, and we're going to give them to Goldman. Well, you think that's moral? Should I do that? How many of you guys would do that? Anybody think it's moral? It's going to end in, you think it's moral for me to use the mafia? What? Immoral, yeah. Very immoral. So it's not good for me to get somebody to strong-arm my competitor and take their profits. It's over. What if, instead of using the mafia, I use the government to do that? Because my brother's on the city council. I say, hey, look, these guys are from out of the city, so make a tax on them and give me a subsidy from this tax revenue. And it's the same thing, same amount of money I would have gotten from the mafia. Moral or immoral? Anybody want to say moral? Because people do it all the time. But nobody's saying this is moral. What? It's still immoral. I think it is too. But because everybody does it, it's like, oh, well, this is the way it works. But this is what we call cronyism. These are the entrepreneurs that are not producing products that make us better off. They're using the system to make themselves better off at a cost to us. Because now my garbage company is going to collect more garbage, and I don't do as good of a job as the competitor, but we just put a big tax on him. So cronyism limits economic opportunity. When the Dodd-Frank law passed, people say, oh, well, we need to regulate banks. Look, they put us into this horrible Great Recession. It wasn't banks that did it. They might have been involved. It was the whole governmental system, the whole idea, oh, everybody's got to be in a house. Let's make sure you give loans to people even if they're not qualified. But Dodd-Frank compliance is very costly. $34 billion annually for the largest 8 banks. Well, guess what? $34 billion for them is not very much money. But when you're a small bank, it's a big chunk of your money that you have to spend to deal with Dodd-Frank. So who goes out of business? The small banks. Who buys them up? The big banks. Now they get more monopoly power. Why? Because they got a law put in place that favored them over smaller banks. And we've seen a lot of small banks go out of business. One way we know this, 79% of banks gave free checking in 2009, and only 39% of them did in 2012. Why? Because their costs were going up. They wanted to give you better service, but they couldn't because it wasn't cost effective. I was going to play a video, but I think we're going to run out of time here if I do, so let's see. I've got another video we'll see in a minute. Well, maybe we will. So this is a little cartoon on cronyism. And so cronyism, we see it with labor unions try to get special privileges. We've got people trying to get bailouts. We've got people trying to use environmental rules to make sure you buy certain type of environmental products. And so hopefully this video will come up. We'll see. It's a cartoon. You got to listen really carefully to hear it. Did I do that right? Oh, come on. Oh, no. Maybe we won't do it. But they're connected. All right, never mind. So, what the whole thing is, cronies are connected. Who are they connected to? They got government connections. I know the right people. So instead of I know how to produce products to make people better off, I just know the right people. And this makes me better off. We see this a lot. And I'm sure we all know people that are cronies because we're all involved in it. People say, well, you're at a university, a public university. Doesn't that make you a crony? And I make the argument, no. If we didn't have public universities, I would still have a job at a university. It's just that we have public universities, and I want to make them better, so I'm there now. But nonetheless, I don't think it's cronyism because I haven't asked the government to say, give us more money, give me more money. So green energy subsidies. We've got some government bureaucrats saying, oh, this company, Solyndra, is a really good company. We should give them a loan. Well, you know what? The stock market, people buy stock. Banks and venture capitalists give people loans when they think they have a good idea. Solyndra could have used that market instead, but they used the government, and then they went out of business, and the government got left holding the bag. So if the idea is good enough, the private market's going to put the money in. Private market funds a lot of failures, but they also fund a lot of winners, and they know how to do it much better than some bureaucrat in Washington. And so Bastiat talks about this in what is seen and what is not seen. So if you have a reading group here in the near future, and you might, this would be a great thing to read, is Bastiat's Seen and Unseen. So the wrong enemies, the rich are not the enemy. The enemy are the cronies and the rent seekers, the people who use government for things. And they're rich and poor. And so we talk about the 1%. A lot of the 1% made it up to there because they produced things that were good for people. They didn't do anything wrong. Good for them. But some of them made it because they had government special monopolies and so forth, and then they probably, those are the people we should be after. So how do we reduce cronyism? Governments promote entrepreneurship and economic progress when they allow personal choice, when they allow voluntary exchanges between individuals, when they allow people freedom to enter and leave markets and to compete. They don't give special privileges. When they secure property rights. And so I'm going to talk about each of these. So personal choice. It's when you're able to make choices on your own. Nobody's forcing you to make choices. But when governments grow, they replace these personal choices with political choice. Think about Social Security. You guys should start saving for your retirements as soon as you get out of college and start making money. Because as soon as you put away money, the more it will grow. Well, with Social Security, a lot of people say, well, I've got Social Security, I don't have to save for retirement. Well, two things. You guys will not get Social Security, I'll guarantee it. So you better start saving. Don't think you're going to have it. And secondly, this is what happens, is you lose your personal choice. Do I want to save a lot for retirement or a little for retirement? And so governments replace that choice. Health insurance. Health insurance is a mess. It's been a mess for a long time, but it's been a mess because we haven't allowed the market system to work very well. If you want to get laser surgery, probably $10,000 10 or 15 years ago to get laser surgery. Now it's about $500 an eye. Why? Because it's not in the insurance market. It's in the health industry, and its price went down because it didn't have any insurance mandates or any insurance coverage. But other things that are covered by insurance, prices haven't gone down. It's a mess. Doctors don't even get to spend time with you. They're just filling out paperwork. So a system that allows individuals to act on their own would be probably much better than what we have right now. Voluntary exchange. You should be able to trade freely as long as it doesn't harm anyone else. And that doesn't mean if I buy from him that I hurt him because I didn't buy from him instead. You know, that's always going to happen in exchanges. We exchange with whoever we want to. But this is where you might harm somebody else due to externalities or something. But in the past, until a year and a half ago, I couldn't buy a Cuban cigar legally in the United States. Like, really? Who do I hurt if I buy a Cuban cigar? I'm not supporting Castro. I'm supporting that farmer at Pinar del Rio who makes the cigars. And even if it's supporting Castro, he's not going to change his way because he gets an extra $3 from me. I guarantee it. So, this is a freedom of exchange, and yet I'm not allowed to do this. We're not allowed to travel certain places, and so we don't have that voluntary exchange. I'm not allowed to work for President Payne for $3 an hour. I want to rake his leaves in his yard, and he would love to pay me $3 an hour to do it. And yet I'm not allowed to do it because if we do this, we're breaking a law. Even though it's a voluntary exchange and we'd both be happy doing this, we can't do it. It's illegal. And that's because of minimum wage laws. And so, this is a little frightening because there's some people that actually aren't worth the minimum wage, believe it or not. And they can't get jobs because they're not worth it. So what do? They find alternative things to do. Probably not good. I don't know what the rules are in this state. In Kentucky, if I have an NCAA ticket that I got for $250, and let's say University of Kentucky's going to the Final Four. Oh, yeah, I think they did one of these years, or they might. University of Louisville's going to go next year. But nonetheless, I can't scalp this ticket. I can't sell it for a higher price. If somebody wants to give me $1,000 for this ticket, who loses? Who is anybody taken advantage of? I give them a ticket that I paid $250 for, and they give me $1,000. I'm about $1,000 better off, and they value the ticket more than $1,000. There's no taking advantage. There's no exploitation here, but yet the state of Kentucky doesn't allow that. But I live in Indiana, so I can just go across the river in Indiana, and then I can scalp it for any price I want. So I can say, come on over to New Albany, and we'll get the ticket. But these kind of rules are silly. These don't let the market work. Another thing, freedom in inner markets. So many occupations require licenses. And so Missouri has 31 low-income occupations that require licenses. Do you really need a license to cut people's hair? Let's look at an example here. And then tell me, what would happen if this person didn't have a license to cut people's hair? Maybe it'll work. We'll see. Oh, come on. Well, I'll have to tell you what it was. So you've seen the Tiki Barber ad for Geico, and he comes out and just does this. Would you let him be your barber? Anybody would let him be your barber after the first time? He did it once. You would never go back to him. Does he need a license for you to know this? In fact, as soon as he does this to 5 or 6 people, word gets out, don't go to Tiki Barber's barber shop because he won't cut your hair right. He's out of business. You don't need a license to cut hair. I was on a plane with this woman who worked in a beauty parlor. She owned it, and I said, "Well, how come you have to have a license to cut people's hair and to, do whatever they do for women's hair?" Because I don't know about hair. But why do you have to have a license? You got to go for 2,000 hours of schooling to do people's hair. And she said, "Well, you have to learn how to sterilize the equipment." 2,000 hours? Are you guys that stupid? I mean, it can't be that bad. So 2,000 hours to do hair is silly, and learning how to sterilize equipment probably takes, I could probably do the seminar in this time period today, and you guys know how to do it. Put the stuff in the machine, push the button, take it out. It's not that difficult. So licensing, why do we have occupational licenses? Why do we require this? And in fact, here in Missouri, the average fee is only $100. 220 hours of experience and education, and they have 10 of them have minimum ages. So to be a psychiatric aide, there's only one other state besides Missouri that requires you to have a license to be a psychiatric aide. Well, who does this benefit in Missouri to require a license? Okay, and the people that already have the license. So it reduces competition. So you can't just come off the street and be a psychiatric aide. You've got to go through all this training. Likewise, to be a taxi driver or chauffeur, you've got to have special training and license. I guess it's just a license. Pharmacy technician, you need 80. There's 12 states that require it and $87. I guess there's not education days though, so this one isn't too bad. I didn't put up all of the Missouri ones, but there's a website that has this. It's license to work at .ij.org. And they have information on every state and all these licenses. But these licenses are around because it reduces competition and it makes the people that already have these jobs better off. Well, yeah, I'd like to be better off. We ought to ban anybody from getting a PhD in economics from now on out. This would be great. Because then the demand for economists, even if it stayed the same, the supply would start falling, and I would get bigger salary. That would be great. I'd be happy to get more money. But that's just not the way the system works. The system works, the good economists rise to the top, and the bad ones fall by the wayside, and they drive for Uber or something. All right. So, and then finally, security of person and property. You've got to have your property rights protected. This is important. If I come up with a great idea and then somebody gets to steal it, I have less incentive to come up with a great idea. If I come up with a great product and the government taxes away all my profits, I have less incentive to make these products. So we want to allow people to reap the gains of their inventions. Don't ever do this on campus. Free bikes on campus. So some schools have come up with this great idea. Let's put bikes out for students, and they just pick them up and ride them to their class, and they leave it, and then somebody else can pick it up and ride it to class and leave it. What happens to those bikes? You can imagine they either get stolen, they painted them pink, so nobody's going to steal a pink bike. But the people are going to come at the middle of the night after being out all night and say, "Hey, how many people can we put on this bike?" And it's going to get destroyed. Now, instead, some campuses now have the bikes where you put your credit card in, and you can rent it for half an hour, and then you park it in a place, and when you put it back in the parking place, then your credit card's no longer charged. What about those bikes? They get destroyed? No, why? Because your credit card has your name on that bike, and if it's destroyed, they know who destroyed it. What? You do that? Well, yeah, you need electric bikes, right? So we see this among states where states have what we call economic freedom. And so there's been economists who've measured economic freedom, and generally, when you have more economic freedom, it allows individuals to pursue their self-interest in more ways. And we have more entrepreneurship, then society's better off. We get more growth in the economy, more jobs, and so forth. And so the three components of the economic freedom in North America, Dean Stansel down at SMU and a couple other people develop this index every year, and they measure the economic freedom in each state in the United States, and actually all of North America, so the provinces in Canada and the states in Mexico. But they look at the size of government, takings and taxation, and labor market freedom. The top 5 states in 2013 were New Hampshire, South Dakota, Texas, and Florida. The bottom 5 are New York, California, Alaska, Hawaii, and New Mexico. Missouri's tied for 7th in the most recent one, so it's fairly free, which is nice. If you're in these states, there's lots of rules and regulations. I'm going to go to, next week I'm leaving for Seoul, and then I'm going to Dubai and Delhi. In Delhi, India, they've got so many regulations. If you want to start a business, it takes you 2 years from starting the paperwork to getting the okay to do this. If you go to Singapore and you want to start a business, open the doors. You can start the business. Where do you think you have more entrepreneurship, India or Singapore? Singapore, it's a no-brainer. So allowing individuals to act with economic freedom allows for more innovation. So productive individuals will choose to either become entrepreneurs, but as government grows, maybe I can use the government to do me special favors, the mafia idea I gave you earlier. So then you become what we call a rent seeker. And so which one do you choose? Well, you choose the one that gets you the most money. That's the incentive. And this is a sad incentive that we have in our system. When government grows, some people go to the dark side and say, okay, I want to take the free money from the government. Uh-oh, I just stopped the thing here. There we go. So rent seeking, entrepreneurs are going to rent seek when it's more profitable. They're going to use government when it's easier. So if my brother's on the city council, I'm going to take advantage of that. If he's not on the city council, I'll probably have to provide better service. In places where rent seeking is higher, people's incomes are lower. Society is worse off. This is why economists don't like it. Laws that inhibit entrepreneurship, minimum wages, right to work laws. They keep businesses from coming to states that have those higher minimum wages and right to work laws. In Seattle, you go to McDonald's and you order your McDonald's hamburgers on an iPad because there's a $15 an hour minimum wage. So have we helped these kids with the $15 an hour minimum wage? No, we put them out of a job, but we made Apple better off because they're selling more iPads. So this is not a good idea. Affordable Care Act kept companies from employing people during the Great Recession because they didn't know what the impact would be on their company. They kept their employment below 50 to make sure they didn't have to pay insurance. Unstable political system and conditions definitely make people worry about whether or not it should start a business. High taxes, people, if they're going to get most of their profits taxed away, less incentive to innovate. I'll just do something else. Bad patent laws. So our patent system has been very archaic. We've got people that will buy up all these patents, all these ideas that somebody came up with. And then when somebody comes up with a new innovation like this clicker here, there's probably some program in here that used something from one patent, and they're going to sue this company, Logitech, saying, look, we're going to sue you because you're using this idea. And instead of going to court, Logitech will give them $50,000 to be done with them. And they wouldn't have won in court anyhow, but it would have cost more to go to court than it would to settle. And so you think about if you're a small business and you're worried about getting sued, you can't pay $50,000, so you never get the business going. And so patent trolls are really bane to our society. Immigration policies. When we have more immigration, we actually make people better off, not worse off. It's a free trade. Bankruptcy laws, if it's easy to get into business and easy to get out of business, people will get in and do more business. And then prohibitions, marijuana laws, 3-tier distribution system for alcohol. This makes us have less choice instead of more choice. And then finally, a little bit on corporate social responsibility. So who's a corporation responsible to? Milton Friedman said the only thing corporations should do is maximize profits and worry about the shareholders. Other people say, no, you got to worry about consumers and workers and communities. If you're a good business, you do worry about those things, and it puts it in the bottom line. And that makes that you're really looking out for your shareholders. So smart businesses do that. So people talk about this triple bottom line. You got people, planet, and profits. And so Friedman says profits are all that matter. Well, companies that have this big overlap, they'll talk about how good they are for the environment and how good they are for the planet. But what if you're this company instead? you're not as good for the planet and the environment, are you? Well, think about it next time you go to a hotel. And I don't know if you guys, students, maybe don't go to hotels very often, but you walk in a hotel, and the first thing you see in the bathroom is, we care about the planet. You know that every day we use thousands of gallons of water to wash our towels and sheets. Because we want to save the environment, please hang up your towels so we don't have to wash your towels and sheets. Really? They care about the planet? What do they really care about? They don't want to wash the towels, right? And because it saves them money. How do I know it saves them money? Because some hotels say, hey, if we don't wash your towels, we'll give you $5 towards coffee. It must save them $5. So if they were more honest about it, it's like, hey, look, we can keep your rates down, or we'll give you some money money back if you don't wash your towels. Then everybody wins. But instead, they try to just put it all on me. I don't like that. But they're probably more like this. Oh, sorry. More like this than like that. This company's not going to talk about corporate social responsibility as much because they just can't afford to do the people and planet stuff as much. Not that they don't care, it's just they don't have the overlap with their profits. Who doesn't care about the environment? Who doesn't care about people? Everybody cares about those things, but it's just a matter of where you are. If you had total overlap, it's like, man, you'd be like Apple or something probably. All right, so finally, what programs should a state pursue? Mike Munger, who's at Duke University, says, make your argument about what you want the state to do and what you want the state to be in charge of. And then go back and look at your statement. Everywhere you said the state should do this, you delete that, and he says, he says what I have there, but he also says, put in the politician that you really hate and you really distrust and say, oh, I think this person ought to do this, and see if you still believe that. Because you think about politicians, what do politicians do? They're self-interested just like everybody else. There's nothing wrong with self-interest. But if I'm a politician, my self-interest is I want to get reelected. If I want to get reelected, there's one politician, he voted for this policy, he's a congressman, he voted for a policy that hurt his congressional district. And so this guy said, well, why'd you do that? He said, well, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't have gotten funding from this group. And if I didn't get funding from this group, I couldn't win the election to represent my people. So it's a circuitous way to say, I'm screwing my people so I can get reelected, so maybe I can help them next time. A little scary. So, but they're self-interested. Politicians are people too. They're not evil. I know we always place evil things on people. We place it on politicians, business people make a lot of money. For the most part, most people are good people, but they often do things that we think aren't so good. Anyhow, if you believe your statement after you put in this person you don't really like as a politician, you probably don't think the state ought to do these things. So conclusion, if you want to be successful in the long term, you need to have moral behavior and you need to act in the long term. Short-run thinking is not good in your life. It's not good in business either. Think long term. Capitalism is moral because it allows us to maintain our liberty. It allows us freedom. When we don't allow people freedom, we're making society worse off, not better off. And so more economic freedom gives us more entrepreneurship, which gives us more growth. So anyhow, thank you. You got a beautiful building here. Yeah, my pleasure.
Guys, I appreciate you coming. Everyone should have one of these. Would appreciate you filling them out. Enjoy.